Okay, good. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is the MSc in Applied Educational and Social Research at University of Strathclyde. So my name's Alastair Wilson. I'm a Senior Research Fellow in the School of Education. Most of the work I do is postgraduate work, whether PhDs or MScs, MEds, you know, as a senior research fellow, then it's my role to kind of lead research into different areas in education and social research. At the moment, my main area is looking at ideas around inclusion. I also do some work in disability. And we're particularly interested at the moment in kind of practical, more applied projects, which look at researching inequality in education, access to higher education, etc. Okay, so that's me. What we're going to do in the webinar, I want to give you an idea of why this course might be of use for you or to you. Give you a sense of what you'll study in the course and our kind of course structure for facilitating that. And then a wee bit about what the course can lead to and the sort of opportunities that it can bring. So why do our course? A lot of the people that come into our course will come in as potential PhD students. So they're people that are thinking of doing a doctorate and they want to get a taste, if you like, of the research world, the research environment. And so they'll do our course as a kind of first step towards that. Now, any of you that are familiar with the UK kind of PhD programs will maybe come across the Economic and Social Research Council, the ESRC. And basically when they market their PhDs and when they fund PhDs, they tend to have what's called a +1 program, which means you do 3 years of a full-time PhD, but before you start that, you do 1 year of research training. And that is what this course is. So if you came into this, our university and part of the ESRC +1 programs, you would do this first year to kind of orientate you and give you research training and skills. And then you would do the next 3 years of your PhD. So it's very much a course that's designed to start your kind of academic pathway. So that's one of the sort of bigger groups, if you like, of people that do the course. The other group of people that come along to us are those that are wanting to, what I would call, or what I would describe as increase their research literacy. And these are quite often people that are working in different sectors, whether in government policy, the third sector, for charities and so on. But what happens is they're engaging with research. So maybe as part of government policy, you have to understand what the research says about a particular issue. Maybe as part of your role in a charity or other third sector organization, you're drawing from research. You might actually be involved with groups that are commissioning research. So we do tend to get people coming into our course that really just want to get more literate, a better understanding, if you like, of the research world, approaches to research. And in some ways, it kind of equips them to look at existing research, to interpret it, to understand it, and also see the value of what new research might bring to that area. So those are sort of two of the main groups of people that would come into our course. It's called Applied Educational Social Research because a lot of what we're striving for here is to get you to a point where you can conduct your own research. So we want you to understand the broader research kind of field, if you like. We give you some of the theoretical ideas that inform that. But alongside that, we're building in your kind of practical ability, both to understand, but also carry out research. And that's a key part of the course, and it culminates obviously in the dissertation, which is your own piece of new, unique research. So it's very applied in that sense. You join us, you learn about research, and as you do that, you're constantly working with your own area that you're wanting to develop, etc., working towards your dissertation. Okay, so when you actually come in and study with us, these are the core modules that we'll do. We look at some of the theoretical ideas that underpin research. You come across concepts like positivism, post-positivism, interpretivism, etc. Now, that first module is pretty kind of hard going in terms of more sort of philosophical stance, if you like. But once it's out of the way, the rest of the modules are a lot more kind of practical, and they're probably a lot more straightforward in terms of working on them, progressing them into your kind of broader research literacy. So don't worry too much about the first module on that philosophical basis. It's necessary for your broader research understanding, but it's over with quite soon, so don't worry about it. We then go on to research design, and not what we're talking about now is the broader ways in which people conduct research. So we're starting to look at the ways in which we do research, whether it's quantitative, qualitative, or a combination of both. And so that's sort of starting to frame your own ideas about your potential dissertation and piece of research. So what I want to emphasize here is that although these modules sit and they're quite discrete, as you work through them, you're progressing towards developing your own research and doing your own dissertation. So we like you to start the course with an area of interest that you're keen to pursue, just a broad idea of what you would like to do. And then really we use the course and the different modules to really get you focused on that research area, on understanding it, understanding how it's been researched, and then actually developing your own research. And that's what the sort of narrative behind these modules is. We do research design. We move on to data collection then, which is very much about how you will actually go out and collect your data, what you will do on the ground. And then, of course, once you've got that data in, you need to analyze it. So we have two discrete modules, one in qualitative data analysis and one in quantitative data analysis. Now, sometimes people can get a wee bit kind of put off by the quantitative aspect in particular. If you don't come from a more psychology background, you may not ever have done any quantitative work before. We work on the basis that you will have a certain level of maths that you did at school before you left school, etc. But apart from that, it's a fresh start. We're not expecting anybody to have any experience or understanding of quantitative data analysis or quantitative methods in general. So you can fully expect that if you've done your first degree, you've got an area of interest and you start with us, that you'll be able to pick up and learn in the data analysis. It's not an advanced course in that sense, and it's something you can start with no experience. So don't be put off by the sort of maths or the statistics that sit behind that, because we all start afresh, and it's not a problem really for our students. Finally, then we've got your research project, the dissertation, which, as I've said already, is very much the culmination, if you like, of these different modules. We're asking to work towards it constantly. So when you look at research design, data collection, data analysis, this is all with a view to your own area of interest and the project that's starting to form in your own mind. Once we go on to the dissertation, though, it's a discrete piece of work, and it's something that will be supervised locally by somebody that's interested and maybe expert, hopefully, in that particular area. So that's the kind of module structure. We follow the same basic structure, whether you're coming in as a part-time student or you're coming in as a full-time student. For our part-time course, it's distance learning only. So it's a 2-year course. For the full-time course, we describe it as blended learning because we use a lot of our online materials, online interaction and tasks and so on. And then we blend that with face-to-face weekly meetings, which would be typically a lecture and seminar. So the basic structure is that kind of lecture seminar. It varies. Sometimes we've got a lot of online material and we'll extend the lecture into more of a workshop, more of a or the seminar, sorry, into more of a workshop or practical session. It just depends on what we're doing in each particular module. And we do that similarly for the part-time. In terms of your assessment, we've a written assignment of 3,000 words for each module, and then obviously the dissertation, which I think is 12 to 15,000 words. Dissertation, again, I'd emphasize, can look a bit formidable when you're kind of working through all these modules, but again, you're kind of working at it bit by bit, cumulatively working towards it. So it's kind of started almost from the very beginning of the course. And alongside all that, we do some one-to-one tutorials. We'll definitely see you and talk to you about each assignment. and then we have our staff kind of factored into support as need be in terms of the different modules. So some people might be struggling with a particular issue, or they've got particular interest they want to pursue, etc. And we're available to do one-to-ones in a kind of responsive way, depending on what people need. But you're definitely going to speak to us once or twice at least for each module. But I suppose what I would emphasize here is that it's very much a course that's geared towards you working independently. What we've got on the course site and the materials and so on is a real sort of solid structure in terms of how you go about the course, how you work through it. It's got all the materials, background reading. We use a lot of podcasts for different aspects of the course as they come along. So you're really well equipped to be able to sit down, carve out your own time and work steadily at the course. And then we'll supplement that by our weekly meetings and tutorials. So, and that's important, particularly any of you that are thinking about coming in for the online course. It's something you can work on quite independently. We asked you to attend for the different lectures, but obviously there's times you might not be able to, and we're flexible about that. All the sessions are recorded, so you can catch up if you do happen to miss sessions. And equally then in the full-time course, we'd like you to be there obviously for the sessions each week, but all the material will be available, and there's a lot for you to work with outside of those sessions. So it's quite structured outside of that, but it does, there's quite a lot of work involved in that, although it might look as if our actual face-to-face time tutorials isn't a huge amount of time. Remember, those are totally dependent on you doing the hours every day and the reading every day to keep up to speed, etc. Okay, I think I've covered a lot of this. I would emphasize that the end product that we aim for is your dissertation, and don't forget that's at master's levels. We're interested in that being something that could potentially be published. So we're gearing you towards working at a very high level, and certainly students we've had in the past, whether it was sort of foregrounding to their PhD or whether they're professionals working in the area, etc. The course is going to equip you to work at a very kind of advanced level in terms of research, and we'd certainly expect that if you do that well, you do an interesting piece of research, that you should be able, like other researchers, to contribute to the field. And some people will put it in as an early career research paper, for example, or a student paper. But equally, we have other people that have gone straight into some of the journals and got their work published. So you should always see that as the ambition for the project or for the course. It's about bringing you up into the academic world and helping you sort of contribute to that academic world, which for some of you will lead to being able to publish, hopefully, from your dissertation. Okay, so a wee bit just to sort of close with the dissertation, because this is kind of hub of everything. Everything focuses around creating this piece of work and working towards it, etc. As I said before, we ask you to identify a broader area for your own research, and that's something that we'll have discussions about. You're not left on your own to try and work out what you'd like to research. You can come talk to us. We bounce some ideas around. So there's a lot of chat and discussion goes into generating and starting to focus your ideas. And that takes place over a period of time. You can even use the modules to kind of work through that process. We do like you to think about an area that you're quite passionate about, because if it's going to sustain your interest throughout the course and into a dissertation, and hopefully something that you might be able to publish from, it's got to be something that you're keen on, something you're really passionate about, and can sort of keep that momentum going. The modules, as I said, will build very much towards that. In the full-time course, you're going to be doing your dissertation work in the sort of May to August area, and your graduation will formally occur in December. Once you've got the modules done, though, we're quite flexible in terms of when we want to graduate, if you like, because some people will take longer to do their dissertation. Some people will have deadlines to start PhDs in October, and it's done and dusted very quickly. But there is an element of flexibility there. And that happens at all times, never mind within the kind of COVID situation that we've got at the moment. So, if you're working steadily through the modules, you're contributing towards your dissertation, you're building towards it, and then formally you're going to be focused on it in the sort of May to August period. But if that, sometimes some people are doing research in schools, and in the UK, for example, lots of schools are on holiday, so that can be something that pushes it back a little bit, etc. But I just want to emphasize that end of the course, if you like, is a lot more flexible, and that does give people room to sort of work at their own pace. If you're working or contributing to the course on a part-time basis, for example, people can have things occur with their work situation, they might have holidays to take in the summer, etc. And they like it to be a wee bit more flexible. So we can accommodate that. Okay, so finally then, just what do people do once they've done our course? As I said earlier, people will progress to PhD. It's a good course to give you a sense of what research is about. Some people can do that and sort of think, right, I'm going to continue with an academic career. Others will use the course, as I said earlier, to kind of help them in their careers, maybe to change direction into more research-based work. Some people have used it for promotion. We've had some students, for example, that worked in local and government policy making. And it's been a criteria for them almost to be able to interact and make use of research. And they wouldn't have felt confident doing that until they've done our course. Once they've done the course, they kind of feel they can move up a level in their work, take on more responsibility, particularly where it interfaces with research. So, that's something that people have benefited from the course. And that's one of the directions, if you like, that they'll go in after the course. And broadly, as I said, will people go on into academic work? Some people are doing their academic work part-time. We've had some people come back who are changing careers sort of mid-career, if you like, and they've done the course and their PhDs part-time and moved more towards academic work, etc. We've had a number of people obviously work in education and social work fields. And those, as you know, are probably dominated by more third sector organizations, etc. And as I talked about a minute ago, we've got a number of people who work at national government level departments. So it's quite a broad remit of people. And when you join the course, you're going to meet other students who are from a variety of different fields. Our course, it's important to say at the moment, our course is quite small. So if you joined a cohort for the full time, it's likely to be about 10 people, 12 people maybe at the moment. It's quite a small little group. That has benefits. Some people enjoy that. They like it being a small, tight group. You get to know each other, etc. Some people are expecting a much bigger cohort, but I feel it's better to be up straight and just let people know the sort of scale and the size of the course you're going to be working in. The part-time course is a little less than that. I think this year we've got, 7 students on one of them and maybe 10 on the second cohort. So it's a little bit smaller normally, but it varies from year to year. So some people enjoy that, they see it as an advantage, others see it as a weakness. From my point of view, from the staff point of view, a smaller course is great because we get to know the students as much tighter, and we've got more time to spend with each student. So we're able to work with you more closely in terms of developing your ideas and your research. Okay, so I'll maybe stop there and we can see if there's any questions or comments. Feel free to ask away. We normally do a one-to-one with people prior to joining the course, so there will be another opportunity once you've applied to talk to me, and we can set up a one-to-one for that. But in the meantime, I'll hand back to Nicola, and maybe we can take some questions if there's some.
So it's just to reiterate, if you do have any questions, and if you don't want your name read out and your comment read out, just contact us after this event. Usually these videos get used for future conversion campaigns or recruitment campaigns, okay? But you are free to contact us and say, look, I wouldn't wish for that to be disclosed. You can also submit a question anonymously as well. Okay, has anybody got any questions? If so, just submit a question through the Q&A icon. I'm going to ask Alastair and test them out and put them on the spot with the most commonly asked questions for postgraduate study this year. So what is the time like on a weekly basis while you're on the PhD? What is your time commitments for this?
Okay, so if you're on our full-time course, we will have a session. Usually we do 1 2-hour session a week, and then we supplement that with some tutorial work and some practical work. But it doesn't sound like a lot with 1 2-hour session, but there's a lot of reading alongside that. And also, as you progress your ideas towards dissertation, we do quite a lot of small group work and tutorial work. It depends a lot on the COVID situation, what way we're able to organize it this year, because obviously if you're full-time, you probably want to be in attendance and we'd want to run groups and meet with you. If it runs on Zoom, we can be very flexible about that, but it's obviously not quite the same experience. But having said that, this year, a lot of the students have made use of Zoom. We've done a lot of tutorial work on Zoom, and once we sort of got to know each other at the start, that's been really useful and quite easy to do.
So you answered about 2 of my questions there. How did you find last year with COVID and working online? So did you use a lot of your online materials then and utilise that as much as possible? And what were the benefits of the online learning functions while studying last year?
In the normal run of things, you've got timetable classes during the week for the full-time course, but they're kind of full on. We've got stuff to do, we work at it, and then the next class is waiting to get in. As we've done it this year using Zoom, it's a lot more relaxed, and we can schedule in meetings whenever people want, or if they're, if I can see that everybody wants a wee bit more support in a particular area, or if something arises that we want to talk about, we can just schedule in a Zoom and we have that discussion. So actually Zoom has added a lot to the sort of overall research environment and the course environment. In the past, you would have had to schedule meetings and find a room to book and all the rest of it, where it's actually much more flexible now. And actually that's something we'll keep going forward. So even if we are able to meet face to face, we'll probably find that using Zoom on occasions is actually much more flexible.
Okay, and say during your dissertation time, are you supported quite a lot by the university? Should you need assistance? Now you said was it May till August period? Yeah. So are you supported during that period for your dissertation?
Yeah, of course. I mean, what we'll do is we look at the area you're interested in and we try and match you with a member of staff who's got an overlapping or maybe the same area of interest in terms of their research. So once we find you a supervisor that's suitable from that point of view, then you work with them, and we probably anticipate you're going to meet with them weekly at the start just to get moving and get the project underway. And then after that, it'll probably be more fortnightly or monthly meeting just to see how you're getting on. And obviously you can submit bits of work to them as you go along, etc. So it's quite a close working relationship. And as I said earlier, there's a potential there to move forward and publish. So we have one student this year who's working with a supervisor. They're very interested in the same area, and they're keen to publish jointly afterwards. So they'll be meeting weekly and talking about that and trying to progress it. So yeah, it is part of your work that's very sort of carefully supported. So there's no need to worry about being left on your own in terms of having to manage a research project.
And what ideally do you look for entry requirements into the course? What are you looking for?
We're quite flexible. We like you to have a good first degree, and maybe that in education or social sciences. But to be honest, we're kind of looking for that, plus some interest and familiarity, if you like, with educational social research. And that can be just a passion as opposed to experience. And quite often what we'll do when you apply is have that one-to-one. And also we'll ask you to do a short sort of explanation as to why you'd like to do the course. And that's really to help us make sure that this is the right course for you. And in that, you'll probably get some of the same content we've done in this webinar. But the idea is to kind of make sure that the fit between what we can offer and what you want to do matches up nicely. So a good first degree is what we're looking for. But we can supplement that as well, because people will join us at different stages in their careers. Some of them have come into education through different routes. So, you know, if you're thinking that that's something that's going to be weaker in your part, then just let us know and we can look at your application. We can look at what you've done and where your career is, etc. So there's other things we can take into account. But main message would be, if you have any concerns about that, just to get in touch with me directly.
Okay, we've got a question submitted. I submitted a research proposal with my application 2 years ago. Am I still committed to this, or I am still committed to this, or is there flexibility within the course to develop new ideas and different ideas?
Yeah, there's no, I mean, people will, you could do the whole course and at the last minute change direction for your dissertation. That would put a bit more work on you, but you know, we're very, very flexible. Ideally, we like you to come in with some ideas and then we nurture those along. But in the normal progression, you know, students will come in with ideas, we look at them, they read about it, then they see that there's a slightly, you know, they might want to go off at a bit of a tangent, or they want to do something in more depth. So, you know, the whole thing is designed to be as flexible as possible. You know, if you identify a research area early and work with that as you go along, then that's the ideal. But, you know, the research world's never really like that. It's usually messier than that. People will work at it for a while, and then maybe halfway through the course, you get a sort of brainwave, oh, it'd be so exciting to do such and such. And, you know, we can accommodate that. So you're not tied. We use it as a kind of selling point of the course so that it sort of shows a natural sort of progression, which can make things a lot more kind of coherent and easy to do, especially if you're working part-time. But even if you're doing the course full-time, you know, it can be quite pressurizing. Whereas if you have this way of kind of developing your ideas as you go along for the dissertation and your own research, that kind of eases that along nicely. But it is flexible, so don't worry about being forced to do a particular thing, because that's what you said you would do at this point. It's always, there's always room to maneuver within that.
And you talk about the natural progression onto a PhD study. Have you got examples of what people have done after PhD doing research? Any of your previous students at all?
If you go on and do, most of the people that would do it as a PhD or as a forerunner to the PhD will progress into a studentship, funded studentship for PhD, or fund it themselves or whatever. So what they'll do with our course usually is start to look at the area they're interested in, then they complete it or do their PhD in that area. The normal sort of progression after that is into academia. So a lot of people will go into lecturing jobs, they'll apply for, I'm trying to think, there's 2 people at the moment that have taken lecturing posts after their, you know, done this course, done a PhD, and then gone into lecturing in universities. Other people have gone on and done the PhD, and at that point they've said, nope, that's enough of academic world, I'm never going back to that. And they've used their PhD in terms of employment, because obviously it's given them a specialist area they can work in. So some of them have gone, I'm trying to think, that one young man that did a lot of work on mental health, and he went into the third sector working with the charity and mental health issues and so on. So it's quite varied, but the academic career is probably the main reason for doing it. But then once people have done the PhD, they can go off in different directions.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the funding opportunities for the course?
Now, up until now, it's been entirely a kind of self-funded course, but we now have people coming on to us who have taken career development loans. People within the UK have been funded by their local funding councils for master's level work. So there's quite a variety of sources in terms of funding. At the moment, our Scottish students have had, or UK-based students and Scottish students have used their funding councils, so Scottish Funding Council, etc. And that fully funds a course like this. Some people have come in, particularly those that are doing the course as a kind of professional development, and they've been funded by their employers. which have been, in Scotland or UK have been local authorities, etc. But also some private companies, third sector companies. So it's quite a broad range actually of mechanisms that people use to fund the course.
And it's just to say to you all, if it is postgraduate funding you're looking for from staff, they have increased the salary threshold to 25,000 per annum before you will pay back your repayments for your student loan. So that's something that they are trying to encourage is for home students to go into postgraduate study, and that's why they've increased that threshold to 25k before repayments. Okay, more information on that is on our funding web pages, and you can just access that via the course pages. Also, if you're an international student, there might be scholarships available for you as well. All you have to do is go to the scholarship section on our web pages and just fill out all the details, and it'll show you the available funding and scholarship opportunities available. Also, sometimes there's funding opportunities available to you on the course as well. Okay, so I'd always say to anybody who is looking to do a postgraduate, always have a wee nosy to see what stuff is available for you. Okay,